is for anybody who is not really looked at the information about the topic and doesn't really have strong opinions either way. This is just for anybody who's kind of, in the dark on the whole issue, and they hear a lot of yelling and screaming on both sides. So basically, the whole global warming thing goes like this. We are polluting our atmosphere, the air. We're changing it. We're sending a lot of smoke out of our cars, out of our factories, into the air. We're burning down forests, and we're changing the makeup of our atmosphere. Now, this is like putting a big blanket on the whole planet. And you can compare this to when you put a blanket on yourself when you're in bed. What happens when you put the blanket? It keeps you warm. You're warmer than if you had not had the blanket. Now, scientifically, they can measure the amount of CO2 and other what they call greenhouse gases that are up in the atmosphere. They can measure that, just like they can measure the temperature. This is scientific. The science with the thermometers, you go outside, they say, what does it say on the thermometer? 80 degrees? Alright, it's 80 degrees. You can't tell somebody, hey, it's not 80 degrees. I disagree with that. No, this is scientific. And they can measure the amount of CO2. And the fact is that right now, in time, in our history, the CO2 is higher than it's ever been. That's one of the facts that was in Al Gore's movie, An Inconvenient Truth. There's a lot of stuff that people want to argue about in that movie, but one fact is that in that movie, and that is undeniable. And like I said before, what happens when you put a blanket on something? It gets warmer. And these gases act like a blanket, they insulate the earth, and it subsequently gets warmer. So, why is this happening? It's because of pollution. Now, I have a few solutions, as does everybody. But the main problem is that polluting our atmosphere, our rivers, anywhere that people want to pollute, it's allowed. It's not illegal. It's illegal to go to someone's house and, pour some toxic waste in their backyard, right? But it's not illegal to do it in the planet if you own the property or whatever. But this is our house, the world. This is our home. And it's not illegal, and it should be. Now, the companies that made cars, they pitched and moaned when they had to make cars emit less fumes. But in the end, they're happy to do it, and people are happy that they did it. They put the catalytic converters in there. They charge the customer for that. Yeah, they paid for the research and development to put those parts in there, and they paid to buy them in the first place, and they paid to install them in the car. But they didn't pass those savings along to the customer. The customer ultimately was charged for those, which raised the price of cars. The problem is, now we have a car which the majority of the pollution of the car was put into the atmosphere making all the parts for the car. All the little plastic knobs, and the metal for the this, and the crankshaft, and the ding-dong, and all the stuff that's in the car, hundreds of thousands of parts, I don't know how, it's a lot of shit. And you're going to have more pollution just making that fucking car than driving it around for 100,000 miles. That's a fact. Now, why is that? That's because your car got a catalytic converter, but the factories don't. That's right. They are allowed to pump as much fucking fumes as they want to. You know why? Because they can go down to the EPA with their little lobbyist crew and say, hey, what you gonna do? We pollute this much. Just write it down on your little report that we pollute this much. Okay? Here's $100,000. Done deal. Factories that are pumping out millions of cubic meters of CO2 a day, and their factories are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 a year. So now that we know where the pollution's coming from, why haven't they stopped it? Why haven't we just said, hey, we're destroying our environment, pollution is bad, everybody knows that. Why haven't they stopped it? Well, I have single-handedly figured it out. Check this out. America, biggest polluter in the world, has the most pristine, best farmland in the world. Everybody knows that. From shore to shore, fucking Atlantic coast to Pacific coast, this is fantastic growing land, and that's what the majority of it is. It's all farms. Not many people know that, but hey, that's the way it is. In the past, you grow in the summertime, right? In the past, summers varied. Sometimes you'd have a hot one, sometimes you had a wet one, sometimes you have a cold one. And depending on the summer, how it was, how it was in terms of weather affected the outcome of your crops. How much did you get after the growing season was done? Now, all those bad summers over the years, farmers went out of business and this and that. So I think this is what they're doing. They're using global warming to turn up the heat just a little bit to guarantee a perfect growing season every summer. And not only that, bonus, the summers are getting longer. So anybody who doesn't believe what I am saying is a dumbass, and they need to go back to school and learn something. Take an ecology class. Guaranteed you will come out smarter than you are now.